Right now, Redondo Beach can look stronger than it feels. A homeowner can hear that single-family homes are still moving in about a week, that sellers are still getting over asking in some cases, and that inventory is still tight. And all of that is true. But that is not the whole selling experience. Because another Redondo Beach homeowner can look at the same market, list a good property, get showings, get compliments, and still feel buyers hesitate once the monthly payments, the HOA dues, the condition, and the next available option all get compared side by side. That is the market we are in. Redondo Beach has still buyer demand. That is not a market where buyers disappeared, but it is also not a market where every home gets automatic trust just because the address says Redondo Beach. The homes that feel easy for buyers to believe in are still getting rewarded. The homes that need the buyer to stretch, explain away condition, ignore competition options, or trust a number without enough support are having a different experience. I'm Mr. Hernandez. I help Redondo Beach and South Bay homeowners understand what the market is really saying before they make their next move. And this June update is about exactly that, where buyers are still moving with confidence and where sellers are having to prove that number. Because in May, the single family market and the condo and townhome market told two different versions of the same story. Houses still had speed, attached homes still had closings, but current buyer commitments softened in both categories. That is the part I would pay attention to. Keep that in mind because at the end, I'll bring this back to the simple seller read I would use before putting a Redondo home in front of buyers. Whether your price can hold up against the payments, the nearby alternatives, and the first 2 weekends of feedback. If this market is starting to affect the real decision in your house, call or text me using the contact information in the description. We can look at your home, your property type, and the homes buyers would compare against yours before your price is public. And if you're still early in the journey and just trying to keep tabs on your equity and buying power, use HomeBot. You will find the link in the description. It gives you a quieter way to watch the numbers while your timing gets clearer. And if you want Redondo Beach updates that stay focused on the homeowner decision, subscribe to this channel. Now let's start with single family homes. Citywide, Redondo Beach had 52 active single family listings in May. That was flat from April, but down from 66 active listings last May. So supply was not flooding the market. In fact, compared with last year's, sellers had less visible competition. Closed sales came in at 25. That was down from 34 in April, but slightly above the 24 closings from May of last year. Pending sales were the more important signal. They dropped from 26 in April to 17 in May, and they were also below the 21 pendings from May of last year. So the house market did not break, but fewer buyers were newly committing in May. That matters because closed sales tell you what buyers already accepted. Pending sales tell you where buyers are stepping in right now. And active inventory tells you how many choices are sitting in front of them while they decide. The strongest part of the single family story is speed. The median days active for Redondo Beach houses was 8 days in May. That matched last May and improved from 10 in April. Sellers also received 100.9% of original price at the median and 101.1% of last list price. That is real support. A seller who enters this market correctly can still get a fast answer, and a fast answer changes the whole experience. It shortens the amount of time your home has to stay show ready. It limits the number of weekends your schedule gets rearranged around open houses. It gives you more certainty when you are trying to plan your next move. But speed can hide the weakness if you only look at the headline. The median single family sales price was $1,650,000 in May, down from $1,657,500 in April, and down from $1,900,000 last May. The median price per square foot also moved down from $978 from $1,074 in April. That does not automatically mean every Redondo house lost value. Median price can shift because the mix of homes that closed changed. But it does tell us not to get lazy with the story. Buyers were moving quickly on the homes that made sense, while the overall mix was not screaming unlimited pricing power. That is the balance. Fast market, tight supply, strong sell to list behavior, but fewer new pendings, fewer new listings, and a payment environment that makes buyers more careful. You can see that more clearly when you look at the different house lanes. Hollywood Riviera had one of the cleaner single family signals in the report. There were 15 active listings, 9 closed sales, 9 pending sales, 2.1 months of supply, and a median of 9 days active. Sellers received 100.9% of original price at the median, and the median sales price was $2,000,000 $1,600,000. That is a functioning, high-value house market. Buyers were not just browsing, they were committing. For a homeowner in that lane, the market is still capable of giving a fast read when the home and price line up, but even there, the discipline matters. A strong lane can validate a strong property. It does not guarantee that every number survives. El Nido also showed strong house behavior, though with a smaller sample. There were 6 active listings, 3 closed sales, 3 pending sales, 2.2 months of supply, and a 5-day median. Sellers received 104.2% of original price at the median. That is a strong signal, but with only 3 closings, it tells us that buyers rewarded the right homes. It does not tell us that every El Nido seller can skip preparation, presentation, or pricing discipline. South Redondo also had pockets of real support. The single-family lane south of Torrance Boulevard had 12 active listings, 4 closed sales, 3 pending sales, 2.5 months of supply, and a 10-day median. Sellers received 102.6% of original price at the median. North of Torrance Boulevard, the single-family lane had 7 active listings, 4 closed sales, 2 pending sales, 3.3 months of supply, and a 6-day median. Sellers received 103.6% of the original price. Those are strong closing behaviors, but the samples are small. That is important. When only a few homes close, one exceptional property can make the numbers look better than the average seller's experience would feel. Golden Hills gives a good example of why low supply is not always the same thing as effortless leverage. Golden Hills had 7 active single-family listings, 8 closed sales, 3 pending sales, and only 1.4 months of supply. That sounds extremely tight, but the median days active was 17 and sellers received 98.4% of the original price at the median. So yes, homes were closing. Yes, supply was low. But the final number still needed to make sense to buyers. That is one of the most useful lessons in the May data. Low inventory can help a seller, but it does not erase the buyer's payment, the buyer's comparison set, or the buyer's ability to wait for a clear option. And then there are lanes where the sample is too thin to turn into a sweeping rule. Villas North had 9 active single-family listings and 2 pending sales, but no closed sales in May. Villas South had 1 active listing, 1 closed sale, 0 pending sales, and a 51-day median for the single closing. Those numbers do not mean those areas are weak. They mean a homeowner should be more careful about borrowing confidence from a citywide headline or from a neighbor's sale in a different product type. That is the housing market. It is still giving seller support, but the support is specific. It depends on the exact home, the exact lane, and the exact comparison buyers are making that week. Now, the condo and townhome side needs its own conversation. Citywide, Redondo Beach had 99 active condos and townhome listings in May, almost unchanged from 100 in April and 97 last May. So unlike single-family homes, attached inventory was not meaningfully tighter than last year. Closed sales improved. Redondo had 37 condos and townhomes closings in May, up from 26 in April and up from 33 last May. That part looks healthy. But pendings fell hard. They went from 43 in April to 20 in May, and they were down from 30 last May. That is the split. Closings say buyers were still absorbing attached homes. Pendings say the next wave of buyers were more cautious. For a condo or townhome owner, that matters because your buyer is not just buying the unit, they are buying the total monthly package. That includes price, HOA dues, insurance, the competing townhome 2 blocks away, the unit with lower dues, the one that feels easier to say yes to. That is why attached housing often feels more exposed to comparison. In May, the citywide condo and townhome market had 3.4 months of supply, a 20-day median, and sellers received 98.8% of the original price at the median. Sellers received 99% of the last list price. That gap matters because buyers were not refusing to buy, but many were not validating the first number exactly as written. The strongest attached single showed up in the Villa South. That lane had 19 active listings, 11 closed sales, 9 pending sales, 2 months of supply, and a 16-day median. Sellers received 99.2% of original price at the median, and the median sales price was $1,685,000. That is a real market. It does not mean every unit sells instantly, but it does show that buyers were still committing when the product and the price made sense. Villas North had a different texture. There were 21 active listings, 9 closed sales, but only 3 pending sales. Months of supply was 3.2, the median days active was 19, and sellers received 99.5% of original price. That is not a bad market. It is a market where closed sales activity looks stronger than the current buyer commitment. For an owner, that means the launch still matters. If the unit is clean, priced well, and easy for a buyer to understand, the market can work. If the price depends on a buyer ignoring better alternatives, the market may push back. The comparison comparison pressure was clearer in parts of South Redondo. The condo in Townhome Lane west of PCH had 26 active listings, 5 closed sales, only 2 pending sales, 4.9 months of supply, and a 34-day median. Sellers received 96.5% of original price at the median, and south of Torrance Boulevard had 11 active listings, 4 closed sales, 1 pending sale, and 5.5 months of supply. North of Torrance Boulevard had 12 active listings, 5 closed sales, 5 pending sales, but the median days active was 53, and sellers received 94.1% of the original price at the median. Those are very different pockets, but they point to the same seller lesson. When buyers have choices, the unit has to make sense quickly. The price has to feel defensible, and the monthly cost has to feel explainable, and the condition has to compete with what else buyers can buy at the same payments. This is where a general market update stops being enough. If you own a condo or townhome in Redondo and you are close enough to make a move that you need to know what your unit will actually face, call or text me using the contact information in the description. We can look at your building, your dues, your likely buyer pool, and the units buyers will compare against yours before that comparison is happening in public. But if you're still sorting out timing, use HomeBot. The link will be in the description so that you can watch your equity, your buying power, without forcing the decision before you're ready. The reason buyers are acting this selectively is not hard to understand. At the end of May, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate was 6.53%, up from 6.30 at the end of April. That does not sound like a huge move until you attach it to a Redondo Beach purchase price. At these price points, a small rate move can change the monthly conversation very quickly. That is why a buyer can like the home and still hesitate. They do not need to hate the property to pass. Sometimes they just need another option to feel cleaner for the money. All of that matters, but none of it prices your home by itself. Single-family homes still had speed and seller support, but current commitments softened. Condos and townhomes still had closings, but buyers became more selective before writing. The macro environments kept payment pressure in the room. So here is the seller read I would use before going public. Your home has to earn confidence in 3 places. First, the payment has to make sense for the buyer who is actually active right now, not the buyer everyone hoped would exist when rates were lower. Second, the home has to hold up against the alternatives buyers can see that week. And third, the first 2 weekends of feedback have to support the price before time on market starts changing the conversation. When those 3 things line up, Redondo Beach can still reward a seller quickly. When one of them is weak, the market may still get you to the sale, but it may do it through extra time, adjustment, credits, or negotiation pressure. That is the difference between having equity and being able to convert that equity cleanly. So if selling in Redondo Beach is becoming real for you in the next 3 to 6 months, call or text me using the contact information in the description. I can help you pressure test your home before buyers are already reacting to your price in public. If you're still watching the numbers before making that call, use HomeBot. It is the simple way to keep an eye on your equity and buying power while your timing gets clearer. And if you want to keep seeing what Redondo Beach is doing beneath the headline, subscribe to this channel. The cleanest decisions usually come from the homeowners who understand the market before the market is testing them.